Almost everybody watching this was raised to never waste food. Cook once, eat twice. Your mother did it, you do it, and honestly, it is one of the smarter habits you have. What nobody ever sat you down and explained is that the second time you heat a food, you are running a completely different chemistry experiment than the first time. Same pan, same food, entirely different reactions. And 4 specific foods, warmed up a specific way, build compounds that the World Health Organization's own cancer agency has formally classified as probable human carcinogens. Let me be careful and precise with you, because there is a lot of garbage on the internet about this. Leftovers are fine. Leftovers are good. The difference between making those compounds and not making them is almost always the dial on your stove and about 90 seconds of your time. And before you click off because you think this is the usual "don't microwave anything" scare video, give me 1 minute, because the real answer flips what you have been told. Your microwave is the hero of this story. I will get to exactly why at the end. I'm Dr. John Myers. I'm an internal medicine specialist, and in 22 years of practice, the questions that come at me on the way out the exam room door are almost never about medications. They are about the kitchen. So today, 4 foods. One of them is the healthiest thing in your refrigerator right now. One of them is sitting in a pot in about half the households in this country tonight. And the 4th one is the one that worries me most, because it is the most reheated food on the planet, and you almost certainly warmed it up this week. And look, what happens in your kitchen between 6 and 7 at night does more for how you age than almost anything I can write on a prescription pad. That is exactly the kind of thing my patients ask me about every single day. So I took everything I tell my own patients and put it into one simple plan for living longer, stronger, and healthier after 60. 28 of the things that actually change as you get older. Your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your memory, your balance. And those are only some of them. Thousands of people are already using it to take back their health. It's already helped so many of them live their best life after 60. The link is on your screen right now, so go check it out at drjohnmyers.com. And I'll drop that same link down in the description below, so it's right there whenever you're ready. All right, one idea before the list, because once you have it, you can work out the answer for any food in your refrigerator, including the ones I don't name today. When you cook a food the first time, heat does exactly what you want it to do. It breaks apart tough structures. It unfolds proteins so your gut can get at them. It releases nutrients and it kills bacteria. That is the entire point of cooking, and it works. Then the food cools. And while it sits in that container overnight, it changes. The proteins have already been unfolded. The starch recrystallizes into a tighter structure. The fats have already been partly cracked open. Bacterial spores that sailed through the first cooking wake up. So when you put that food back on the heat is landing on something that has already been altered once. Different material, different reactions. And that second heat does 3 things the first heat never did. 1, it creates. It builds compounds that were not in the food when you cooked it and were not in it when you put it away. 2, it compounds. The first heat starts the damage, and the second heat goes to work on what the first one already broke open, so it runs faster and further every pass. 3, it can't undo. Heat kills bacteria. Heat does not destroy the poisons some bacteria leave behind, so a reheat can look and smell and taste like it fixed the problem, while the actual problem is sitting right there on the plate. Creates, compounds, can't undo. Every one of the 4 foods today gets scored against those 3, and every single one has a fix that costs you nothing. And I want you to hear that last part, because it is the whole point of this video. Nobody here is asking you to throw away food. Telling somebody on a fixed income to throw out a perfectly good dinner is an insult, and I won't do it. The lever you actually hold in your own hand is the method. How hot, how fast you cooled it, how many times, and what is on the pan. Number 1, and this is the one that makes people argue with me, spinach, and with it the whole dark leafy green family. Chard, kale, arugula, beet greens. I'll say the good part first, because it's true and it matters. Raw or cooked fresh and eaten, spinach is one of the best things you can put in your body. Iron, folate, vitamin K, lutein for your eyes, and greens are one of the real reasons a plant-heavy diet lowers blood pressure. I want you eating them. Now the chemistry. Leafy greens pull nitrate out of the soil and store it in the leaf. Nitrate on its own is harmless, and in a lot of ways it's helpful. It is the same compound in beetroot that your blood vessels convert into nitric oxide, which relaxes and opens them up. What changes it is warm storage. Bacteria on the leaf convert nitrate into nitrite, which is a much more reactive form of the same element, and they do that fastest in the temperature window between about 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So a pan of spinach left on the stovetop for 2 hours to cool, or a spinach quiche sitting out on the counter after dinner, is quietly building nitrite the entire time. Then you reheat it. In the presence of heat and protein, nitrite combines with amines from that protein to form N-nitroso compounds, nitrosamines. And nitrosamines are one of the most heavily studied classes of chemical carcinogen we have. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is the World Health Organization's cancer arm, classified nitrate and nitrite ingested under conditions that lead to that internal conversion as Group 2A, probably carcinogenic to humans, back in 2010. The cancers with the most consistent evidence behind them are in the digestive tract: stomach, esophagus, colon. Score it. Spinach is a creates food. That compound was never in the leaf. You built it in your own kitchen. And I'm going to be honest about the size of this, because I'm not interested in scaring you. One reheated spinach omelet is not a diagnosis. This is a small exposure, repeated, over decades, which happens to be exactly how most diet-linked cancer risk actually accumulates. The fix is free. Cook the amount of greens you are going to eat. If you have leftovers, get them in the refrigerator inside an hour, and then eat them cold. Cold spinach in a salad the next day is completely fine, keeps every bit of the nutrition, and skips the second heat entirely. What makes this a problem is the warm hour on the counter and the second trip through the pan. Number 2, rice. And this one has put people in the hospital, which is a sentence I don't use loosely. Uncooked rice naturally carries the spores of a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. A spore is the survival form of a bacterium, a seed with a hard shell around it, and that shell is built to survive precisely one thing: heat. So when you boil a pot of rice, you kill essentially everything else in there, and the spores go straight through the boil untouched. Now the rice comes off the stove and sits on the counter. As it falls into that warm range, the spores germinate. They wake up, they multiply, and while they multiply, they release a toxin called cerulide. Cerulide is where this gets serious, because it is heat stable. You can bring that rice back up to a rolling boil the next day, kill every living bacterium in the pot, and the cerulide will be sitting there completely intact. This is well enough known that it has a nickname in emergency medicine: fried rice syndrome. The classic case is takeout rice left out overnight and fried up the following day. Score it. Rice is the can't undo food. Reheating hands you the feeling of having sterilized it. It did no such thing. In a healthy 40-year-old, that means a miserable few hours of vomiting. After 60, with a thinner gut lining, and for a lot of you, medications like acid reducers that lower your stomach's own first line of defense, that same dose can mean a hospital visit for dehydration. And repeated low-grade inflammation of the gut lining over years is a risk factor we take seriously for colorectal disease. There is a second, quieter problem with rice. When cooked rice cools, the starch recrystallizes into a tighter structure, which is called retrogradation. If you then blast that cold rice in a hot, dry pan, you are browning it. And browning starch at high, dry heat is the exact reaction that produces acrylamide. IARC classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen as well, and the FDA has published formal guidance to the food industry on lowering it. The fix comes straight out of the UK's National Health Service guidance, which is the clearest anybody has written it. Get the rice into the refrigerator within 1 hour of cooking. Spread out in a shallow container so it cools fast instead of staying warm in the middle of a deep pot. Eat it within 24 hours. Reheat it until it is steaming hot the whole way through, not just on top. And reheat it once, one time. There is no third night. Quick pause because we're right about halfway, and this is the only favor I'll ask you. If you would rather have the mechanism than another list of 10 things, subscribe. And do me one better than that. Send this to whoever does the cooking in your family, because that is the person who can actually change it. Anyway, number 3 is the oil. The bottle you cook with and everything you already cooked in it. Vegetable oils high in polyunsaturated fat, so sunflower, corn, soybean, and most of what gets sold as generic vegetable oil are chemically fragile at high heat. Those fats carry double bonds, and the double bonds are the weak points. Heat them past their limit and they break apart, and when they break, they throw off a family of compounds called aldehydes. You already know one aldehyde by name, formaldehyde. IARC classifies formaldehyde as Group 1, carcinogenic to humans, which is the top category, the same one that holds tobacco smoke and asbestos. Another one that turns up in overheated oil is acrolein, which is what gives burnt oil that harsh smell that catches the back of your throat, and IARC moved acrolein up into the probable human carcinogen group in 2021. Here's the reheating part. Chemists at the University of the Basque Country in Spain have done some of the best work on this, published in the journal Food Chemistry, and what they found is that heating the same oil again produces far more of these compounds on each pass. The first heating already damages the oil. The second heating is working on oil that is already partly broken down, so it degrades faster and further. That is the compound's root, and this is the clearest example of it anywhere in your kitchen. And this is not only about a jar of saved frying oil. When you take last night's stir fry or that pan of chicken thighs and drop it into a screaming hot skillet, the oil that is already inside that food goes through the entire cycle again. You do not have to be saving oil to be reheating oil. 3 fixes, all of them free. First, stop saving frying oil. I know people who keep a jar of it under the sink. Pour it out tonight. Second, when you warm any cooked dish in a pan, use low or medium heat and never high. Every reaction I have described today is temperature driven. Drop the temperature and the chemistry largely doesn't happen. Third, for stovetop cooking and reheating, use extra virgin olive oil. It is mostly monounsaturated, meaning far fewer of those fragile double bonds. It carries its own antioxidants and it holds up to heat considerably better than the seed oils do, which is the reverse of what most people have been told. Number 4, chicken, and with it every cooked animal protein: beef, pork, fish, even hard-boiled eggs. This is the one I care about most for a simple reason. It is the most reheated food on earth. You roast a chicken Sunday and you are eating it Monday and Tuesday. It is also the only one of the 4 that hits all 3 routes at the same time. Start with creates. When you cook meat at high temperature, the amino acids and the creatine inside the muscle react with each other and form heterocyclic amines, HCAs. They form on the surface, in the browned and charred parts, and they form more the hotter and drier the cooking gets. The National Cancer Institute keeps a public fact sheet on exactly this. HCAs are mutagenic, meaning they directly damage DNA in laboratory testing. They cause tumors in animals, and population studies have linked a high intake of well-done, pan-fried, and grilled meat with cancers of the colon, the pancreas, and the prostate. So think about what reheating in a hot pan is actually doing. That surface already went through the browning reaction once. You put it back on high heat and you brown a surface that is already browned. You are running the HCA reaction a second time over the same square inch of meat. Then compounds. The proteins in that chicken were already unfolded by the first cooking. Hit them again with intense dry heat and they oxidize further. Dry high heat is also the single biggest driver of advanced glycation end products, which we shorten to AGEs. There is a landmark food database on this out of Mount Sinai in New York, published by Urabari and colleagues in 2010. And the finding that matters is this: the cooking method mattered more than the food itself. The same chicken, broiled or fried, carried many times the AGE load of that same chicken poached or stewed. AGEs drive oxidative stress and inflammation, and they show up in the research on vascular disease, kidney disease, and diabetic complications. And then, can't undo. Cooked chicken is one of the easiest foods in your refrigerator for bacteria to recolonize once it has cooled. and Staphylococcus aureus, which lives on human skin and gets onto food from hands, produces an enterotoxin that is heat stable. Same story as the rice. You reheat to 165 degrees, you kill every bacterium, and the toxin is still sitting on the plate. So here's how you reheat chicken, and this is the single most useful sentence in this video. Low heat. A pan on medium-low, a splash of water or broth in the bottom, and a lid on top. You are steaming it. Moist heat kept underneath the browning threshold, so the HCA reaction never runs, the AGEs don't form, the oil inside the meat doesn't degrade, and the food comes out better. It stays moist instead of turning into that dry, streamy, disappointing leftover chicken everybody knows. The move to stop making is cold cooked chicken thrown into a rocket hot dry skillet to crisp it back up. That is the worst reheating habit in the average American kitchen, and it is also the most popular one. On storage, straight out of the USDA guidance, cooked poultry goes into the refrigerator within 2 hours of cooking, 1 hour if it is a hot day. Eat it within 3 to 4 days. I'll tell you what I personally do, which is 2 days, because that USDA number assumes a refrigerator actually running at 40 degrees or below, and most home refrigerators I ask patients about have never once been checked with a thermometer. Now let me tell you about a conversation, because this stops being chemistry the moment somebody is genuinely frightened. A patient I'll call Joan, 68, sharp as a tack, widowed 2 years, and she cooks on Sundays for the whole week, because cooking for one person every night is depressing and it's expensive. That spring, her younger brother had been diagnosed with colon cancer. She came in with a printed out article in her purse and asked me a question I have heard some version of 100 times. Doctor, have I been doing this to myself? Have I been doing it to my family for 40 years? That is the wrong question, and I want to answer it properly because I think a lot of you are asking it right now. Batch cooking did not give Joan's brother colon cancer. Nobody can take an exposure this small and this diffuse and draw a line from it to one person's tumor. Anyone on the internet who tells you they can do that is selling you something. The true version is smaller and much more useful. Cancer risk from the environment is the sum of thousands of small hits on the DNA inside your cells across decades, most of which your body repairs, some of which it doesn't. One big dramatic exposure is very rarely the story. Every exposure you remove is one less item in that pile. That is the entire game. It doesn't make a good headline, and it is how prevention actually works. So what Joan and I did was not throw out her Sunday cooking. We changed 4 things about it. Shallow containers instead of the deep pot. Into the refrigerator inside the hour. A lid and a splash of broth instead of the hot skillet. Greens eaten cold. She still cooks on Sundays. She simply stopped handing her own food a second chemistry lesson on the way to the plate. Which brings me to the thing I promised you at the very top, and it turns most of the advice you have heard upside down. Of everything in your kitchen, the microwave is the safest way to reheat 3 of these 4 foods. I know how that sounds. Health videos have spent 20 years telling you the microwave is the dangerous appliance. The chemistry says the opposite, and it isn't close. A microwave heats by vibrating the water molecules inside the food, and water tops out at boiling. So a microwave doesn't drive the surface of your food up into the browning range where heterocyclic amines form. It doesn't brown starch, so no acrylamide. It doesn't push oil past its breakdown point, so no fresh aldehydes. And in that Mount Sinai data on AGEs, microwaving landed among the very lowest of all the methods tested, far underneath broiling and frying. Microwaves do not make food radioactive. They do not strip out the nutrition either. Because the cooking time is so short, microwaving actually preserves more of several vitamins than boiling does, since boiling leaches them into water most people pour down the sink. It has exactly one real weakness, and it's a genuine one. It heats unevenly. Cold spots survive, and a cold spot is where bacteria survive. So there are 3 rules. Cover it. Stir it halfway through, and let it stand a minute or 2 afterward, because it keeps cooking during that rest and the heat evens itself out. Do those 3 things, and the microwave beats the skillet on every measure that matters here. Spinach and greens are the one exception, and only because the right move there is to skip the reheat entirely and eat them cold. And what I just walked you through, all of it, is 1 page out of 28. It's the same approach the whole way down. What is actually happening inside you, and the free version of the fix? The link is down in the description, and I pinned it right at the top of the comments so you don't have to go hunting for it. Whenever you're ready, no rush. Before the recap, one hard line I need to draw, because everything I've described is the slow version of this, and there is a fast version that is a genuine emergency. If you or somebody in your house eats reheated food and then has vomiting that will not stop, diarrhea lasting more than 2 days, a fever above 102, blood in the stool, or the signs of dehydration, which are dizziness on standing, no urine for 8 hours, a dry mouth, confusion, that is not a wait and see situation. After 60, dehydration from a foodborne illness turns dangerous far faster than it does at 40, and faster still if you take a blood pressure pill or a water pill. Call your doctor. If there is confusion or you cannot keep fluids down, go in. And if food smells wrong, looks slimy, or you're standing at the refrigerator thinking, I'm not really sure how long that's been in there, you already have your answer. Throw it out. That is the one time in this whole video I will tell you to. Alright, what to do tonight? 6 things, and every one of them is free. 1. Nothing you cooked sits on the counter longer than an hour, including the time you spend waiting for it to be cool enough for the refrigerator. Shallow container, lid off until it stops steaming, then in. That one habit removes most of the risk in this entire video. 2. Leafy greens never get reheated. Cook what you'll eat, and any leftovers go into a cold salad the next day. 3. Rice gets cooled fast, eaten inside 24 hours, reheated until it is steaming all the way through, and reheated one time only. 4. Any dish you warm in a pan goes on low or medium heat with a lid and a splash of water or broth, never a hot, dry skillet. 5. The jar of used frying oil under the sink goes out tonight, and the bottle you cook with becomes extra virgin olive oil. 6. Use the microwave and use it properly. Cover, stir halfway, stand 2 minutes. None of that costs $1, none of it wastes a thing you already cooked. And together, those 6 habits cut your exposure to every compound I named today more than anything you could buy in a bottle. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, honest explanations of what is really happening in the free version of the fix, hit subscribe, give this one a like, and tell me in the comments which of the 4 surprised you the most. I read them. I'm Dr. John Myers. Look after yourself, and I'll see you soon.